Now, if intellectually you're trying to figure out what the heck's the hook to real estate here, well, vague. But, well, if we all live forever, there's going to be a lot of demand for housing, right? So tell me, and tell our audience, your thesis that is quite controversial in scientific circles, that if we had the will, we could actually live forever. Science makes it possible. Is that, am I saying it properly?
Well, kind of. So the first thing, of course, is it's not possible yet. That's why I created a foundation, Sense Research Foundation, which is doing biomedical research to make it possible. We have to develop a lot of new medical technologies in order to actually deliver this. But you're quite right, a lot of scientists have trouble with the idea that we might be able to bring aging under truly comprehensive medical control. And the fact is, that's not surprising, because in order to do so, you have to do a lot of things, and you have to bring a lot of ideas together and see how they fit together in a coherent, if you like, a technological way. It's a technological design of a panel of interventions that will jointly deliver the periodic repair of the body and thereby the indefinite postponement of the ill health that we all experience in old age today.
So if we spent, I always said we got to the moon with brains, passion, and money. I don't know how much passion. We should ask the audience how many. What I remember, and part of the reason I read the book, my dad, when he died, he wanted to live. He did not want to die. If he was sitting here with you right now, he would say, damn it, yeah, I want to live another 80 years. What could we, is it money, is it science, is it also like counterintuitive and people that don't even like the idea, like this is stupid, some has religious connotations, all kind of issues, right?
So first of all, I really want to emphasize that I don't work on longevity for longevity's sake. I work on health. We just do biomedical research, like any other medical researcher. And like any other biomedical research, if you succeed...
You said biomedical.
Yeah. If you succeed, if you actually get people to stay healthy for longer, then there's going to be this side effect, that they stay alive for longer. Because let's face it, the main thing people die of is not being very well, right? So the thing is that in this case, the side effect could be really, really large. It could be, in terms of just number of years, a much bigger side effect than before, but it's still a side effect. So that's important to remember. And the reason I emphasize it so strongly is because it helps people to understand that this is a no-brainer. This is just, it's completely crazy to think that this could possibly be a bad idea. You've made my life very...
Say that again. A bad idea...
To fix aging.
Yes. Fix aging.
Yeah. The idea that could be a bad thing to do just doesn't compute. You've made my life really easy this morning, actually, by having Dan up here as the first speaker. I love Dan. I think he's fantastic. And I found out this morning that he actually likes my beard, which is nice. I found out, to my slightly less great pleasure, that he does have more TED Talk views than me, but not by much. But the thing is, I think like him. I think exactly like him. I think about why I think what I think. And I like to know why I think what I think. So I spend a bit of time making sure that I do. And anyone who does that, even a little bit, is going to make much better decisions about an awful lot of things about life. Big things and small things. And this is the biggest thing of all, that the defeat of aging with medicine is quite a good idea.
Yeah, it's a good idea. Now, let's look historically. Like, we've doubled lifespan, right? Average, is that? Just tell me the math of that, because I'm thinking, if we just screw living forever, let's just double it again, so it's like 150 instead of 75. Give me the math on that.
All right, so it's actually a little bit of a misleading statistic. It's true, but it's misleading, because the way that we have more or less doubled average lifespan in the last, let's say, 120 years is by more or less eliminating in the West, of course I'm only here talking about the Western world,
yeah,
more or less eliminating the thing that was responsible for about half the deaths, especially the early deaths, way back in the, let's say, the 18th, 19th centuries, namely infectious diseases. Of course, we still have some infectious diseases that are quite bad for us, but in the developed world, very few people die of infectious diseases until they're already old and don't have much of an immune system anymore.
So I'm just curious now, so infectious diseases just offed a bunch of people, and that drove down the average.
Exactly.
But what then, how, the people that lived, what was their average? Was it?
Not much less than what it is now.
Oh, okay.
That's the
So we've
point.
not made much progress.
So we have made some progress, and it's important not to belittle that, but it's been painfully slow. And the reason it's been painfully slow is because we haven't really been doing the right medicine. We haven't been doing the right medical research to develop the right medicine. That's what Sense Research Foundation is here to change. And the thing is that there's only one thing that kills almost everybody now in the developed world, 90% of all people, and that's aging. It's the accumulation of these various types of molecular and cellular damage that the body does to itself as a side effect of just being alive at all. Okay?
Just say that again. I love that line. Just being alive at all, we're killing ourselves.
That's right.
We're always
That's
dying
right.
every day.
Breathing is really bad for you.
Breathing.
Yeah, yeah. It's the reason why we create these things you've probably heard of called free radicals, these molecules that damage DNA and damage membranes and so on. And we kind of, it's non-negotiable really, right? So we've got to fix the problem at a different stage. We can't fix the need to breathe. We have to instead fix the consequences of breathing. And that's one of the things that we're trying to do.
Is that air quality, or is that maybe?
Nothing to do with air quality, it's just oxygen. It's the reason we need to breathe that is
Right.
also the problem.
But when you say fix it, what do you fix?
You fix the damage that breathing does.
Oh, I see.
Before it accumulates.
So the ability of the body to take in whatever kind of air and not kill you.
That's right. The damage is going to happen, but the damage is fine up to a point. The body is set up to tolerate a certain amount of damage, just like your car is set up to tolerate a certain amount of damage, or your house for that matter. Since this is a real estate conference, let me talk about houses for a minute. The reason why there are houses in the country I come from that are 1,000 years old is not because they were designed to last 1,000 years. It's because they've had periodic, comprehensive, preventative maintenance. When storms happen and they take tiles off the roof or whatever, then you don't just wait until the floors and staircases inside start coming down because of water damage. You fix the roof. You know, you don't just stop the roof. You don't try even to stop the damage from happening by planting tall trees around the house and minimizing the damage, because you'll create different types of damage, like tree falling on the house. You know, it's something we know completely already. It's so obvious that preventative maintenance works. And of course, the human body is just a machine, same as a house or a car. It's a very, very complicated machine, but it's still a machine, so the same deal, right? That's all we need to do.
Let me ask you this, though. In a house, people, human nature is part of this, and we like to party, have a good time, and I'm sure that's accelerating our road to death. How did you have to conquer?
Not really.
Change the whole concept of human behavior.
So this is the really good news.
Okay.
No, we don't. Lifestyle differences can, as of today, make a difference to how long you stay healthy and therefore how long you live. And certainly there are some lifestyle choices one can make that will considerably shorten your lifespan, like smoking or getting seriously overweight or crossing the street with your eyes closed. But the fact is that if you do things reasonably well, averagely well, you've pretty much got as much of a life expectancy as if you do things 100% as well as you possibly could. There's not much additional gain. You know, if you think even about genetics. So
Wait. Lifestyle doesn't matter, you just said?
Bad is much worse than average, but good is only a teeny little bit better than average, is what I'm saying.
So the key is to be average. Like,
average is good enough. Yeah, that's right.
have a couple drinks, smoke a joint, don't, yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry. By the way, he has his microphone in his beard. It's so cool.
I'm reminded because, of course, one of these things about liking to know why I think what I think is that I do think and do a certain number of rather unconventional things, some of which my outreach people don't like me to talk about on stage. So,
Go ahead, Tom.
So anyway, the point here is it's really easy to look at the data and see this. A nice simple statistic is you look at life expectancy between America and Japan. So everyone laughs at America and says, oh, you spend far more per person on healthcare than anyone else in the world, and yet you're down around number 45 or something like that in the league table of longevity. But it's the absolute difference in number of years between longevity in the USA versus the number one country is only 4 years. Only 4 years.
Japan?
Yeah.
And why are they number one?
Well, there's a lot of things they're doing right. They have better genetics, they have better diet, they have better culture to look after the elderly. They do pretty much everything right. They do smoke.
Let me go through those again. So genetics, You said diet, so
Yep.
that's why we all...
Both quality and
That's when we
quantity.
go to sushi, we think we're really doing ourselves a good thing. And then the third one was family support.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. I mean, they just look after the elderly in a healthier...
Part of the culture.
Yeah, and a more... Yeah, it's better. They probably spoke a bit too much, but that doesn't take enough off to explain all the rest. And yet still, only 4 years. Right, so if you want to actually seriously stay healthy for a lot longer than you normally would, we need better medicine.
And when you say better medicine, us taking more drugs? Or what is better medicine, so I know what that term means?
Well, some of it may be drugs, but mostly it's regenerative medicine. It's going to be stem cell therapies, it's going to be gene therapies, there's going to be other more traditional things like pharmaceuticals and vaccines and so on, but most of it is regenerative medicine of one sort or another.
And a lot of people are working on that, though, aren't they?
Yeah, a lot of people are working on some parts of it, the easy parts, the low-hanging fruit. Loads of people are working on stem cell research. And we hardly do any stem cell research for that exact reason. We don't need to. Our additional effort would be a drop in the ocean. But there are a number of more, if you like, esoteric areas within regenerative medicine, within damage repair, that are less well understood at this point, less appreciated for how vital they are, and very neglected, very poorly funded. And that's why Sense Research Foundation exists.
Gotcha. Any questions from the audience? I'm curious, how many people would like to live forever? Raise your hands. Okay. How many would just like to get to 100, and that would be cool?
All right, I've got a question too. How many people would like to get Alzheimer's disease?
There you go.
How many people think there is some age, like for example 100, at which they would like to get Alzheimer's disease? All right, so supposing I tell you that if you just fund our research better, then we can stop you from ever getting Alzheimer's disease, however long you live. And indeed, you won't get cancer, and you won't get diabetes, or osteoporosis, or heart disease, or anything that we get these days when we get old. But the catch is, you won't die in your sleep at age 100 either. You'll carry on living healthily because your risk of death in the coming year will not rise as you get chronologically older. It will stay well under 1 in 1,000, the way it is when you're in your 20s and 30s. That's the catch. Now, do you still not want to get Alzheimer's disease? Hands up anyone who's changed their minds about wanting to get Alzheimer's disease.
Yeah.
Gosh, I could be Dan, couldn't I? This is so bleeding easy. And yet, we are desperate for money. It is absolutely extraordinary how difficult it is to get this research funded. We have a budget of $5 million a year. Not $5 billion, $5 million a year. That is as against $30 billion for the National Institutes of Health.
What are they spending all their money on?
They're spending their money on... It's a bit like the bandages that Dan was talking about. There are ways to get quick wins that don't scale. There are ways to push out...
What would be one of those they're working?
Really expensive vaccines or pharmaceuticals that will delay death from certain types of cancer by 2 months if you're lucky. Those things. These things are known not to scale. We will not cure cancer this way. We will not cure Alzheimer's this way. But because they can be done reasonably quickly, they can be sold for a lot of money because people are desperate for anything, and the incentive structure is just wrong.
Is that whole, what's it called, National Institute of Health?
Yep.
Is that all corrupted by the drug company?
I wouldn't say corrupted. This is a societal problem. Yeah. It's not anyone's fault. It's not the scientists' fault. It's not the government's fault. It's not the FDA's fault. It's everyone's fault. You've just got to get a grip, boys and girls, and vote for change. Yeah. You've got to vote for research that's actually going to succeed.
And what I heard you say, and I think this is really important, we wrote a really sexy headline to get people living forever, but what I heard you say, which I really, I think of my parents, it's the quality of life up until you end. All these things that make life so horrific.
So I've got a couple of things to say about that. So first of all, you're absolutely right. Sexy headlines are the bane of my life. They are the best way to turn this work into entertainment for the public rather than education.
I'm sorry we did that.
No, you're not. I can tell already. But also, I think it's really important to understand that the relationship between quality of life and quantity of life is not as most people think about it. Today, people think of those two things as some kind of trade-off. And that makes sense today, because, yeah, there are plenty of things we like doing that are not very good for us. Fair enough. But here we're talking about a world in which quality will confer quantity, in which you will end up living longer because you are living better. That's the critical thing here. And if you're really healthy, just as healthy as you were when you were 20 or 30, you can still keep up with your granddaughter on the dance floor, do you really think that you're going to have any less desire to live another year or another 5 years or another 10 years than you did when you were in your 20s or 30s? Of course you're not. It's not how long ago you were born that determines what you want to do. It's what you see your future, especially your relatively near-term future, as consisting of. If you see it consisting of a steady and increasingly miserable decline, then yeah, you're probably going to think, I'd like to die. But if you're seeing it as a constant maintenance of optimum functional performance, both mental and physical, I have a feeling you're not going to think that.
I love his passion. Hey, let me ask you, in the book Spring Chicken, there was an example there of a guy in your neighborhood in Palo Alto who had the ingredients to live longer, live healthy, where he swam in the bay every morning and he didn't eat until the end of the... Do you remember that example?
No.
You don't remember
But
that?
go on.
You're fantastic. Now, I'm going to make a contribution.
Thank you. Thank you.
And tell the group what is the foundation, and so people that believe in your passion might tie into it.
That's wonderful. Yeah, the website is sense.org, SENS.org. And,
Slow down, what?
S for sugar, E for elephant, N for neighbor, S for sugar.org.
Good. We'll flash it on the screen later on.
Absolutely. Well, I just want to thank Brad for saying he's going to donate. That's a wonderful thing.
Yeah. And I love science, and I love people that try really difficult things. So congratulations. Thank you very much.